Collapse is disembodiment. Collapse is dissociation. Collapse is numbness. And here is the tricky thing around Tantra or anything. The more something is meditative or silent or spiritual or transcendent, the more it is likely that it happens on top of you being dissociated from your body and your reality. So in other words, let me go into bold words. I say that many, many meditative silent spaces are a fake silent, and that they are a fake peace. They come from you being disconnected from the screaming from the last generations of sexual trauma that are waiting in your nervous system in order to be washed through your nervous system, in order to be regulated. So I go for, in those terms, the inner war, if that's more truthful than the inner peace. And that is why I go for the crisis instead of the pleasure. Except Sundays where I just like, fuck it, I go for pleasure. It's like that. But however, you get the point. There is something of us choosing truth in terms of my instincts of safety do not want the fake beach. They want the fucking truth. And if you just go with that, and I think we have a super interesting, I do some research around hardcore porn. Sorry for, I'm not jumping the topic. I will explain. Hardcore porn is pretty on point with us jumping into the intensity inside. And it's pretty dissociated and disembodied in most cases. So there is something interesting in tantric, in hardcore porn, showing to us we miss intensity. That's true. Like porn is not the typical collapse that we have in our love and light harmony and Hollywood harmony of lovemaking and a kiss and everybody has already an orgasm. And it is highly disembodied. It's just the outer world instead of the inner world. Can we combine intensity of hardcore porn with the meditative silence of just relaxing instead of going into hyper performance or wild stimulation or action? Can we do that? I think at the moment, I'm training it. I think you are training it that way as well. I think it's a matter of training. It's a matter of time because you need your nervous system to really recover from layers of this is a contradiction. Either you have hot and passionate sex with multiple orgasms and everybody is curling the toes, or you have slow sex, lovemaking, staring into each other's eyes and just kind of falling asleep. And I love slow sex, just saying, so there's nothing wrong with that. However, I do know that in my intense research eras or phases around slow sex, I also collapsed. And I also was, for example, able to be afraid of the man if he wouldn't have relaxed with me as well. So that is a typical sign of a woman knowing sexual trauma from her own lifetime and the generations before, and therefore collapsing. And there is a misunderstanding around surrender and relaxation and collapse. And there is a misunderstanding around intensity and outer action. So unleash inner intensity while relaxing. How are you doing that? You are closing your eyes, and we can play with that in a moment. You can close your eyes, not now, but yeah, let me jam on that. It's you closing your eyes, reversing. That's a kind of technique that's not necessary, but let's describe it that way. Reversing the direction of seeing, making the seeing less a seeing and more an inner watching or knowing or just acknowledging or witnessing. And like opening to the first sense of vastness or space within your head that is bigger than your head. It's like that's a moment of it's happening in here and it's definitely bigger than in here. So something doesn't make sense. And that is where mysticism takes over. And from there, it is visiting, revisiting, resensing the collapsed fields, the empty fields, the numb fields in sexual mysticism, for example, in your genitals, and sensing the non-sensation until you see the substance of the emptiness. The substance of the emptiness. It's like there is a brimming. It's like there is a void, or there is an emptiness, or there is a nothingness. And this can be the Zen state of samadhi, yes. It might also be the collapse. You can't differentiate from your cultural view. So if you unlearn your culture, you drop inside, you leave yourself behind, you leave orientation and kind of your partner behind, even though you are very close with the nervous system. And then you dare to acknowledge the brimming fullness of the emptiness.